Before you could drive a car or legally sign your name, the blueprint for your life was already drawn. Would you trust a teenager to be your life coach? The only reason why you believe that there's something wrong with you is because there is a silent story that's been shaping everything that started in the first 14 years of your life. Now, I'm going to say this many a times in many a videos because it's really important. 85% of what you believe about yourself, about the world, your place in it, what you can do, what you can't do, what's possible, not possible, 85% of that you decided by the time you were 14. Now, let me ask you, would you trust a teenager to be your life coach? Would you trust an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old to make all of your emotional decisions? Would you trust a 7-year-old to tell you who you can be in love with and who you can't be in love with? Would you allow a 10-year-old to give you relationship advice? And the answer is no, you wouldn't. But that's exactly what's happening. There is a little kid inside of you that is running the show. So as part of my Read and React series, I want to pull this out from my book, Already Whole. It says the first 14 years, the silent story that shapes everything. You might not think about it much, those early years of your life, but they shaped you in ways that you can't imagine. By the time you were 14, the foundation of how you see yourself and the world around you were already laid. The beliefs you hold about what's possible, what you're worthy of, how you fit into the grand scheme of life, those were planted long before you became the accomplished adult sitting here watching this video today. Think about it for a moment. Before you could drive a car or legally sign your name, the blueprint of your life was already drawn. I want to pause there for a second because I really want you to understand what I just read. Before you could drive a car or legally sign your name, the blueprint for your life was already drawn. And unless you actively revisit it and reprogram those beliefs, they're still running you. It's not just the big obvious things like the chaotic household or the traumatic event. It's also the quiet, subtle moments that shaped your perception. See, most people think that it's all about trauma, and trauma is just these big, huge, negative events that happen in our lives, but that's not it. I once had a client, she was 31 years old. She didn't allow anyone to get close to her. She even taught her kids not to allow anyone to get close to you. And when we did the work and traced where that came from, where that fear of allowing people to get close, we traced it all the way back to when she was 5 years old. So what happened? Well, she was on the playground with her best friend and they were playing with their baby dolls together. And one day the little girl just got up, took her things, and walked away and went and started playing with some other little girls. Now, to an adult, to you, that might be not much, but to a 5-year-old, it was absolutely devastating. See, trauma is just described as a disturbing emotional experience, and to a child, that is a disturbing emotional experience. So, the things that shaped your life isn't just the big stuff. It also can be considered what you may consider the little stuff. Let me keep going. Maybe it was a single moment, a look, a word, or a silence that planted the seed of doubt about your worth. Maybe it's the way a teacher's offhand comment stuck with you, or the way you felt invisible at home unless you were excelling. Perhaps it was the tension in the air during a fight you didn't understand but felt deeply. Whatever your experiences was, your brain, like a sponge, absorbed everything. But as kids, we don't process those moments with logic or nuance. Everything feels personal. If your parents argued about money, you might have thought, I'm a burden. If the parent left, you might have decided, I wasn't good enough to make them stay. If love felt conditional, you might have believed, I have to work hard to earn my place in the world. Those conclusions, those childlike interpretations, weren't made with wisdom or foresight. They were survival strategies, your best attempt to make sense of a confusing world. They worked back then, but now they've become invisible walls, quietly dictating what you believe you're capable of and what you think you deserve. See, oftentimes parents are always like, I don't understand why my kid has so much resentment towards me. I gave them a great life. See, but it's not about what the parent said. It's always the way the child interprets it. I'm going to say this again in different videos, but every kid is the star of their own movie. And the child doesn't have the ability to understand that they're not the star in everyone's movie. They're an extra in other people's movie, including their parents. And so there's what the parent says, but there's how the child interprets it. So going back to where it says, if the parents fought about money, you think I'm a burden because they're taking it personal. Children think everything is about them. Because what else do they have to go off of? The only person that they have to think about are themselves. They don't have enough life experience to know that other people have other shit going on in their life. See, one of the things about being a human being is that we don't like open loops, meaning we don't like to not know. And because we don't like to not know, guess what? We will make shit up just to know. You'll make it up. That includes children. So there's a lot of stories that you have in your mind about, why you're not good enough, why you're not worthy, why you're not deserving. But there's stories that were created by a child who misinterpreted or took things personal that had nothing to do with them. It was your best attempt to try to understand, like I said in this book, the confusing world. Because imagine you wake up in this strange place, you know absolutely nothing about yourself and about no one else. All you have to go off of is based on your experiences and what you think about those experiences. I once heard it said that, God creates what is, but then we use the infinite power of thought to take what is and then put our own spin on it. Then at that point, we're not seeing what actually is. We're seeing our interpretation of what is, which is basically our own virtual reality headset on life. So if you ever felt like you run through different doors and come out of the same exit, which we'll talk about in another video, but if you ever feel like you keep repeating the same loops over and over and over and over again, it's because the story of your life has to make sense. You cannot say that you are not good enough and then all of a sudden everything works out in your life and then you feel great about it. You can't say I'm not deserving of love and then someone loves you unconditionally. They may love you unconditionally, but you won't be able to accept it because your life won't make sense if you do. That's cognitive dissonance. You can't say I'm a screw up and then everything works out in your life. That's cognitive dissonance. Who you say you are, your life has to show you, mirror that back to you. So if you say you're a screw up, if you're not good enough, life has to mirror that back to you. So that's why self-sabotage is not a bad thing, because self-sabotage is congruency with your identity, this story that you cling to. It's your safety blanket and your limitation. And it's the story that you created in those first 14 years that's keeping you from remembering who you are. You have to be willing to see it and then release it. You know, someone asked me, they said, Elijah, how do you let go of a story? And I said, the answer is built into the word. It's just a story, but it feels real. It feels real in here. There's what happened, and then there's the story you tell yourself about what happened. But the story you tell yourself is just that, a story. Your best attempt to explain something that you did not understand at an age where you didn't have the life experience and wisdom to make a proper determination of what something was and wasn't, or why something did or didn't happen. Your story is blocking you from your awakening. Your story is blocking you from remembering who you are. And when you remember who you are, then you will experientially know that there is nothing wrong with you. You are whole, you are complete, and you are absolutely perfect, just the way you are. And the only thing that's keeping you from seeing that is this silent story that you cultivated in those first 14 years that's been shaping everything and all the misery that you experience. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.